ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 21, The Dynasty of Bharata, text number 22. Ajamidhat Bruhadishuhu Ajamidhat Bruhadishuhu Tasya Putra Bruhadhanuhu Tasya Putra Bruhadhanuhu Bruhadkaya Tataha Tasya Bruhadkayastatastasya Putra Asid Jayadrathaha Putra Asid Jayadrathaha Ajamidhat Brihadishuhu Tasya Putro Brihadhanuhu Brihadkayastatastasya Putra Asid Jayadratuhu. Ajamidhat Brihadishuhu Tasya Putra Brihadhanuhu Brihadkayastatastasya Putra Asid Jayadrataha Ajamidhat Brihadishuhu Tasya Putra Brihadhanuhu Brihadkayastatastasya Putra Asid Jayadrataha Ajamidhat Brihadishuhu Tasya Putra Brihadhanuhu Brihadkayastatasya Putra Asid Jayadrataha. Ajamidhat, from Ajamidha, Brihadishuhu, a son named Brihadishu, Tasya, his, Putraha, son, Brihadhanuhu, Brihadhanu, Brihadkayaha, Brihadkaya, Tataha, thereafter, Tasya, his, Putraha, son, Asit, was, Jayadratha, Jayadratha. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. From Ajamidha came a son named Brihadishu. From Brihadishu came a son named Brihadhanu. From Brihadhanu a son named Brihadkaya. From Brihadkaya a son named Jayadratha. Please repeat this translation. From Ajamidha came a son named Brihadishu. From Brihadishu came a son named Brihadhanu. From Brihadhanu, a son named Brihadkaya. And from Brihadkaya, a son named Jayadratha. Text 23, 24 and 25, I'll read by myself. Text 23. Tatsuto vishadastasya syena jit samajayata ruchirashvo dradhanu kashyo vatsascha tatsutaha. Translation. The son of Jayadratha was Vishada and his son was Syenajit. The sons of Syenajit were Ruchirashva, Dridahanu, Kashya and Vatsa. Text 24. Ruchirashva sutta paraha prutusenas tadatmajaha parasya tanayo nipaha tasya putrasyatam tvabhut. Translation. The son of Ruchirashva was Para, and the sons of Para were Prutusena and Nipa. Nipa had 100 sons. Text 25. Sakrityam Shukakanyayam Brahmadattam Ajijanat Yogi Sagavi Bharyayam Vishwaksenam Adhatsutam. Translation. King Nipa begot a son named Brahmadatta through the womb of his wife Krithvi, who was the daughter of Shuka. And Brahmadatta, who was a great yogi, begot a son named Vishwaksena through the womb of his wife Saraswati. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Shuka mentioned here is different from the Shukadev Goswami who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, is described in great detail in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. There it is said that Vyasadeva maintained the daughter of Jabali as his wife, and that after they performed penances together for many years, he placed his seed in her womb. The child remained in the womb of his mother for 12 years. And when the father asked the son to come out, the son replied that he would not come out unless he were completely liberated from the influence of Maya. Vyasadeva then assured the child that he would not be influenced by Maya. But the child did not believe his father, for the father was still attached to his wife and children. Vyasadeva then went to Dwaraka and informed the personality of Godhead about his problem. And the personality of Godhead, at Vyasadeva's request, went to Vyasadeva's cottage, where he assured the child in the womb that he would not be influenced by Maya. Thus assured, the child came out, but he immediately went away as a Parivrajaka Acharya. When the father, very much agreed, began to follow his saintly boy, Shukadev Goswami, the boy created a duplicate Shukadev, who later on entered family life. Therefore, the Shuka Kanya, or daughter of Shukadeva, mentioned in this verse, is the daughter of the duplicate or imitation Shukadeva. The original Shukadeva was a lifelong brahmachari. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Can I get first canto? So the description of the dynasty of Bharata, the descendants are being described. All these descendants are great personalities simply because they are generated from the semen of the partial incarnation of the Supreme Lord, Bharata, the son of Dushmanta. So that seminal succession, Bharata's son, his son, his son, his son, his son, that's being described. Now in such a disciplic succession, not seminal succession, because of the powerful personality, Bharata, the sons, the grandsons, the great-grandsons, and that whole dynasty is filled with great personalities. Though the details of these personalities are not always mentioned here, the descendants are all very powerful personalities. And even if nothing is mentioned here about their greatness, we can understand that they carry forward the greatness of their forefathers by themselves conducting their life in such a way that they act very responsibly and they also train up their own son to carry forward the tradition. You see, our country, Bharatvarsha, is great because in spite of 2000 years of foreign rule, foreigners ruling, attacking, destroying, still they could not destroy the tradition and culture. They could not destroy the the spiritual assets that we have. You see? That is because always there are a certain set of people who maintain what is received in parampara, in tradition, in succession, without any deterioration. Like Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that when Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, in the second chapter, Krishna begins to speak to Arjuna. Here, in the third verse of the second chapter, Krishna is telling Arjuna, Klaibhyam masma gamah partha naitatvai upapadyate kshidram hrudaya daurbalyam tyaktotishta parantapa. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Does not become you means it does not befit you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. The purport Srila Prabhupada says, Arjuna was addressed as the son of Prutha, who happened to be the sister of Krishna's father Vasudeva. Vasudeva and Kunti Devi were brother and sister. Therefore, Arjuna had a blood relationship with Krishna. Arjuna had a blood relationship with Krishna. If the son of a Kshatriya declines to fight, he is Kshatriya in name only. And if the son of a Brahmana acts impiously, he is Brahmana in name only. Such Kshatriyas and Brahmanas are unworthy sons of their fathers. Therefore, Krishna did not want Arjuna to become an unworthy son of a Kshatriya. So, this is the point that these names mentioned here, they are acting as the worthy sons of their father. And thereby they are carrying forward the tradition, the greatness of the dynasty. And therefore their names are mentioned. And later on Shukadeva Goswami will clarify that merely reciting the names of these great personalities, one gets lot of pious credits. One gets a lot of sukruti simply by reciting their names. That's why Shukadeva Goswami is mentioning all these names. You see, he's got a purpose for it. That's why he's doing. So, in this dynasty, sometimes some very, very great personalities appear. And their greatness is described in a little detail in appropriate places. So, the dynasty names are given here in the 25th verse. One king, Nipa, he begot a son named Brahmadatta through the womb of his wife Krithvi. This Krithvi is described as the daughter of Shuka. Shuka means Shukadev. Now in the purport, Srila Prabhupada clarifies that this Shukadev is different from the Shukadev Goswami who was speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. Incidentally, who is speaking this verse? Shukadeva Goswami himself is speaking the verse. What is he telling? He is describing the names of the members of the dynasty. He is telling the son of Ruchi Rashva was Para, and the sons of King Nipa begot a son named Brahmadatta through the womb of his wife Krithvi, who was the daughter of Shuka. Shuka Kanyayam Brahmadattam Ajijanat. So, since Shukadeva Goswami is speaking and he is telling Shuka Kanyayam, Shukadeva Goswami is a lifelong brahmachari. So, who is this Shuka Kanya being mentioned here? Prabhupada says this Shuka is different from the Shukadeva Goswami who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the first clarification that Prabhupada makes in the purport. Now, the explanations or the clarifications given by great acharyas is very essential for us to properly understand the context. Otherwise, simply some text book somebody reads, some verses somebody knows, that's not so much useful, especially if you want to arrive at a conclusion. Then you cannot arrive at the proper conclusion simply by studying some text, some shlokas. No, it's not possible. Nowadays we find some people, they're very proud, they can recite the Vedas very accurately. Vedic scholars. But what is the conclusion of the Vedas? Some of them you ask what is the conclusion of the Vedas, they are not able to properly explain. They don't even know. Some of them don't even know what is the conclusion of the Vedas. So the conclusion of the Vedas is given in Bhagavad Gita. What is the conclusion of the Vedas? Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyam. From all the Vedas, one should understand who is Krishna. One should understand, one should know who is Krishna. That Krishna is described in detail in the Bhagavatam. And Krishna himself describes about himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Mayasaktamana partha yogam yunjan madashrayaha asamshayam samagram mam yathagnasyasi tatshuno. How you can know me in full, free from doubt? You hear from me by practicing this bhakti yoga. So why Krishna is telling you, hear from me, how you can know me in full, free from doubt? Because Krishna is the goal of the Vedas. That's why Krishna is telling that. So the Bhagavatam describes the ultimate goal of all the Vedic knowledge, that is Krishna. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls this Bhagavatam as Krishna Samhita. Samhita means Vedic literature. This Bhagavatam is the exclusive Vedic literature which describes Krishna in detail. That's why you find Bhagavatam 10th canto is the biggest canto. 90 chapters, 90 chapters. And before the 10th canto, the first 9 cantos describe who is the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, the supreme absolute truth in his personal feature. And the original personality of Godhead, the source of everything and everyone, is Krishna. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Prabhava means, one of the meanings is the source of generation. Source of generation. So the source is Krishna ultimately. Krishna is the source of even the incarnations. All the incarnations are coming from Krishna, are generated by Krishna. Like Jayadeva Goswami, when he wrote the Dashavatara Stotra, when he wrote that, he, as an acharya in our sampradaya, he brought a very, very, very important conclusion. What is that? Keshavadrita Meena Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadrita Kurma Sharira Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. It is Keshava, that is Krishna, who is assuming these forms of incarnation like fish and tortoise and boar incarnation and Narsimha incarnation. Keshavadrita Rama Sharira, Keshavadrita Haladhara Rupa, Balaram. He is also Krishna assuming a particular form for a particular purpose, incarnation. So in the end, Jayadeva Goswami says, Krishnaya Tubhyam Namaha. Who is that Keshava? Because Keshava is also the name of one of the forms of Narayana in this Vaikuntha Loka. Keshava, Narayana, Madhava. We wear tilak. We chant the 12 names of Narayana in the Vaikuntha Loka. Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayana Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha. So, this Keshava, which Jayadeva Goswami is describing as assuming the forms of incarnation. 10 primary Leela he has given the names. But he clarifies that Keshava, who's the personality of Godhead who is incarnating in this material world, is Krishna. Krishnaya Tubhyam Namaha. So, it is this Krishna who has to be understood from the authoritative sources. And Acharyas in this disciplic succession, they explain very clearly. So that there is no need of speculation or no need of research. Sometimes these scholars who study the scriptures, they try to do research. What research will they do when they have got defective senses, when they have got limited intelligence, when they are handicapped in so many ways, being conditioned souls? What research can they do? That also research into transcendental subject matter. The spiritual subject matter is beyond the comprehension of a conditioned soul. Achintya. It is inconceivable. Especially, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if you try to understand what is the soul, spirit soul, he says, Achintyoyam. It is inconceivable. So, don't attempt to understand what is spirit or what is spiritual subject matter. What is the absolute truth, the supreme spirit? By your speculation, by your research, by your study of the Vedic text, by your austerities, by your meditation, no. This is not the way. The correct method is, as Krishna himself says, Mayasakta Manapartha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayaha Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasyasi Tat Shrunu. Shrunu means you hear. Only by hearing. Only by hearing. And hearing from whom? From the authoritative source. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantap. So this knowledge, first Krishna spoke to Brahma. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. So Brahma was instructed in this knowledge of the absolute truth, the science of the absolute truth. And Brahma is instructing his sons and disciples in Parampara system. And that knowledge Prabhupada is receiving. And he is explaining. So what is Prabhupada saying? Shukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, is described in great detail in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. When Acharyas explain, they are not concocting something. They are describing what they have heard from their predecessor Acharya. And also they are giving Shastra Pramana. Shastra Pramana. They are quoting the scriptures to substantiate what they are telling. So in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana it is said, Vyasadeva maintained the daughter of Jabali as his wife. Vyasadeva is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord for the specific purpose of putting in writing all the Vedas and classifying the Vedas and explaining the Vedas in so many ways, the Vedic message, for the understanding of the less intelligent people of Kali Yuga. Vyasadeva is the incarnation of the Lord for this purpose. So he is called Veda Vyasa. He is called Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. He is an incarnation of Krishna for this purpose, recording the Vedas, explaining the Vedas in the form of Itihasa and Purana, and giving the conclusion of the Vedas in the form of Vedanta Sutra, and finally describing Krishna in great detail in the compilation of the Bhagavatam. These are all the great works of Vyasadeva. So that Vyasadeva also had a wife, and through that wife he begot a son. After performing penances for many, many years. See, begetting a son is not difficult by arrangement of material nature. But to beget a son will be a great personality. That is requiring some spiritual process. So the spiritual process of begetting a great personality is given in the scriptures. And that is described by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. I am sex life, which is in accordance with religious principles. So they performed penance and they begot actually this Shukadev Goswami. But the child remained in the womb of the mother for 12 years. Now this child is no ordinary child. So the child would not come out of the mother's womb. So mother is obviously having a lot of difficulty. Why the child is not coming out? So then the father asked the son to come out, understanding that this child is an extraordinary personality. So the son replied he would not come out unless he were completely liberated from the influence of Maya. Then the father gave assurance to the child that he would not be influenced by Maya, because father is a great personality himself. So he'll train up his son to be a first class brahmachari. But then the son would not take that assurance because he saw that the father was attached to wife and children. What training will he give me when he himself is attached? So then what did Vyasadeva do? Something has to be done. So he went to Dwaraka and personally he requested Krishna to convince this child in the womb of his wife that this child cannot remain there like that. So Krishna personally went to Vyasadeva's cottage and Krishna assured this child in the womb that you will not be influenced by Maya. I give you assurance. Then on the assurance of Krishna, this child came out. But then what happened when the child came out? Just walked away from home. Parivrajaka. So elsewhere it is described by Prabhupada. This child was a liberated soul by birth. It's a liberated soul. But it is also described in the Bhagavatam, first canto, that this Shukadev, he is described as a impersonalist by birth. He had realized the impersonal Brahman, but he did not have realization of the absolute truth as the supreme personality of Godhead when he was born. Later on, he studied the Srimad Bhagavatam under his father Vyasadeva. When Vyasadeva was compiling the Bhagavatam under instruction of Narada, it's a big work, 18,000 verses he compiled. And then he was revising it. When he was revising, he was going through a particular verse in the 3rd canto, 2nd chapter. So, in that verse, Uddhava is describing to Vidura about Krishna. Uddhava is describing Krishna was the most merciful personality ever, that he gave liberation even to Putana, who came to kill him by smearing poison on her breast and trying to feed Krishna with deadly poison. Putana came, but Krishna did not consider Putana's evil act or action. Rather, Krishna considered that Putana came to me as a mother. So Krishna gave her liberation, and she was transported immediately to the Krishna's personal abode, where she was given the position of Krishna's mother. So when Shukadeva Goswami heard this, he approached Vyasadeva and said, "Who is this personality, Krishna?" Because in the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, they only know the impersonal feature, they don't know the personal feature. So impersonal understanding is the absolute truth is impersonal, and all the personalities in this material world are all having material form. They are all spirit soul, but they have material form. So, if Krishna is able to give this kind of liberation to Putana and described as the most merciful personality ever, nobody can be as merciful as Krishna. Then Shukadeva Goswami's interest was in understanding who is this Krishna. So then Vyasadeva said, if you want to understand who is Krishna, you have to study the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Shukadeva Goswami agreed to study the Srimad Bhagavatam under his father. Then after that, Shukadeva Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So this is about Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva. So here it is described that as soon as he was born, he walked away from home. That is described in the first canto, second chapter. What is that verse? Second verse. Yam pravrajantam. He walked away from home. Anupetam, even before his father could perform any samskara. Apeta krityam. Without learning anything about samskara, without any when he went away to take up the renounced order of life, sannyas, his goal was to take sannyas, but he actually never accepted any sannyas, nothing. Leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread ceremony, his father Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, "Oh my son!" Father followed the boy. So it described in the Brahmavaivarta Purana that if father is following the son, please come back. Don't go away. Don't remain uncultured. So the son, in order to pacify the father, he created a duplicate Shukadeva. He is a very powerful personality. So he is a liberated soul. He has this mystic power. So he created a duplicate. By the mystic power only, he was in his mother's womb 12 years. And not possible without that mystic power to remain in the mother's womb. So, which is in mystic power, what did he do? He created a duplicate Shukadeva. This duplicate Shukadeva later on entered family life. And that duplicate Shukadeva, his daughter, is being described as the wife of this king Nipa. Shukakanyayam Kritvyam Brahmadattvam Ajijanat. So this is the clarification given by Prabhupada. One should not think that this Shukadeva Goswami got married and he had a daughter. No. He was a lifelong brahmachari. Brahmachari means he did not get married, he did not enter any ashram. He is described in the 19th chapter. There is a description of Shukadeva Goswami when he entered the assembly of Parikshit Maharaj. He did not display any symptoms of belonging to any ashrama. Neither was he dressed according to proper etiquette. In a Vedic culture, a brahmachari is supposed to dress in a particular way. A householder is supposed to dress in a particular way. So everybody dresses accordingly. But the Shukadeva Goswami is walking around naked, not caring for any etiquette, any social etiquette. So the description in the, I'll end with this description of Shukadeva Goswami. Um, 25th verse of the 19th chapter, the first canto of Bhagavatam. At that moment, when Parikshit Maharaj was discussing with the saintly persons, what should he do next 7 days to prepare himself for meeting with death? At that moment, there appeared the powerful son of Vyasadeva, who traveled over the earth disinterested. He was traveling, he was just walking around, disinterested in everything going on around him, and satisfied with himself. Anapekshaha atamanaha yadruchaya nijalabhatushto. He is satisfied within himself. He did not manifest any symptoms of belonging to any social order or status of life. Nobody could make out. Looking at him, ordinary people will think he's a madman. Simply disheveled hair, naked, and all totally lost within himself. Simply walking. And when he actually, before he came to this assembly, he was surrounded by some urchins, teasing him, laughing at him, trying to ridicule him. He was completely indifferent. He was surrounded with women and children, and he dressed as if others had neglected him. Avadhuta Veshaha. Avadhuta Vesha, of course, here, Avadhuta means one who does not dress according to etiquette. That's the meaning of Avadhuta. But particularly here, it is also said that Digambaram, in another verse, 27th verse, he was naked. He did not care. So how was he recognized is one of the questions the sages of Naimisharanya are asking. How was he recognized? He was just roaming around like a madman, naked, surrounded by some foolish children and women. So how was he recognized? So that is described here, that in that saintly person's assembly, there were great personalities from the Brahmaloka. And they could understand a person's character simply by looking at the person's face. So they saw Shukadeva Goswami's face when he walked into that assembly, and they stood up in respect. He is the greatest of transcendentalists. So when they stood up in respect, all the other saintly persons who could not have understood who the Shukadeva Goswami is, they also stood up in respect. And Parikshit Maharaj, because he was a very advanced devotee, he immediately recognized Shukadeva Goswami. So he offered him a seat of honor. and began to inquire from him, and began the Bhagavatam discourse. Not hardly any time. Immediately everybody settled down after Parikshit Maharaj offered him the seat of honor, and Parikshit made inquiries to Shukadeva Goswami. He began answering, spoke for 7 days, and end of 7 days, time is up for Parikshit Maharaj. So Shukadeva Goswami, have I answered all your questions? All your doubts are clear? Yes, he walked away. What did Parikshit do? He sat, exactly fixed his attention on Krishna, whom he had heard from Shukadeva Goswami. About whom he had heard from Shukadeva Goswami in detail. Fixed his mind completely on Krishna, and he quit his body. So, this Shukadeva Goswami is not an ordinary personality. He is actually an eternal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He appeared for this purpose, to speak Bhagavatam. Parikshit appeared for the purpose of inquiring about Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami. They are all extraordinary personalities. They are not people, personalities of this world. They are not conditioned souls. They are all liberated souls from the spiritual world. They are coming for this purpose. And therefore, their conversation is very, very significant. So the clarification here is, this Shukadeva Goswami is different from the Shukadev, Shukakanyayam is different from Shukadeva Goswami. Stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki.